Hi, so I'm Ryan. I go by RyanArtist64 on Twitch and some other social media platforms. I normally do digital art, but I'm also just somewhat of a Swiss Army geek, and I have been doing spoiler-free reviews on Facebook for quite some time. They've gotten some traction, and people wanted me to possibly start a YouTube channel. So that is what you're seeing now. As for the first review, I'm going to cover the new movie that just came out, which is Scream, the 2022 version. So, with that, this new movie has launched 25 years after the release of the original. Yeah, I feel old too. So, the new Scream movie has been relatively well advertised, has had good trailers, and has been pretty positively critically reviewed on most sites that I've seen. So, what's my take? Well, my review is to follow. So, per the usual, I'm going to start with plot/story. In this category, I feel like the movie did pretty well. It covers a lot of different things. Mainly, one of the big points that it tends to dwell on a lot is the idea of a requel instead of a sequel. The movie kind of harps a little bit on, I guess, the fan base disliking Scream 4, which I personally did not. I thought it was a good movie. However, I do understand its position with the idea of a requel. So in the movie, a requel is the idea of not just doing a sequel with some kind of a brand new standpoint, but that you have to have some sort of connection to the very first movie in a series in order to start successfully with a new series. And so in this movie, there's a lot of connection with some of the new characters being relatives, family relatives of some of the original characters. And they even use some of the original houses that the other movie took place in and things like that. So in that sense, I do feel like that was a good idea on their part to possibly launch a new franchise. I feel like in this one, the overall kills and attacks of Ghostface in this movie are definitely more shocking than pretty much any of the other films. I think Scream 4 does have one scene that probably stands up to this one, but generally the scares are pretty good. The killer in this one is definitely more strategic than they've ever had in any of the other films. And, you know, the writing for that is obviously well appreciated. There's still obviously plot armor. There's a lot of cases where, you know, the Ghostface killer, this has been every movie they've ever done, but Ghostface is constantly knocked down and just kind of easily thwarted by a lot of the people, and it feels kind of plot armor-ish to just move stuff along and not make it too easy for him in the movie. There's a lot of well-placed humor. They do a good job with that. They do a lot of good job with tension building. The tension in this film you could cut with a knife. But overall, like I said, I think with the writing, I'm going to say that honestly, with this film, of the three categories I cover, this is probably the weaker position for the film. Mainly because I just didn't like the motive. When the film comes to a conclusion and you realize the motive of the killers in the movie, it just feels a little off to me compared to Scream 4 or some of the previous additions to the series. So with that being said, like I said, I think the plot and story was pretty good. It's definitely creative, but probably the weaker of the standpoints on this one. So next we have acting. In the acting category, I feel like this movie was pretty phenomenal. Generally, all the actors did a great job portraying their characters. The only argument I had to some extent was some of the original classic characters felt a little bit hollow. I don't know how to explain that, but they just did not come across as intense as they did in some of the previous films. I'm not going to say that in the case of David Arquette. I feel like he did a great job. And Courteney Cox does have some scenes in the movie that are actually kind of emotional as well. To me, it was more pointing in reference to Sidney. And I don't know if it could be basically more of a writing, directorial situation, and not necessarily all placed on her. But the character, I guess, has never been one to really display a ton of emotion in the films, so I do get that. but it just felt like she was a little bit disconnected from the film, in the sense that, yeah, I get that they're pushing that she's been through this situation a lot, but she just seems almost wholly unaffected by the whole situation, more than you saw like even in Scream 4. As far as acting, some of the new people, you have Melissa Barrera. So she plays Sam, who is essentially the new protagonist of the films. I feel like she did a really good job with that. My favorite acting in the film would actually go to Jenna Ortega, who played Tara, who is the younger sister of the main character. She does an amazing job throughout the whole film and really sells, I think, a lot of the scenes better than anyone else. And I know another big draw to this film, there's quite a few fans of him, obviously, from his work in The Boys and other things like that. Jack Quaid. He's always usually really funny, a good comedian, and he brings that to this film as well. Has a lot of funny scenes, and yeah, he's just obviously a great addition to this one. So in the acting category, I feel like the film does pretty well overall. I know with Ghostface, a lot of it's voice acting, but I will point out also the fact that whoever they had for the person inside the suit, just for their motion, how they moved, how they interacted with the environment, it was better than any of the other films I've ever seen. So I know that's basically just, motion and not necessarily acting, but at the same rate, it definitely helps sell the movie. Next, we move on to the visual effects category. For this category, obviously, the Scream movie didn't really rely on a ton of visual effects. I'm assuming most of it was done pretty practically with just people being on set, really no need for green screen or even really that much CGI. However, I will say that there is some CGI in the film, and it's in reference to how they've allowed some of the knife scenes or stabs to actually go through people on set. So like in the screen, you see basically the knife go completely through someone instead of just into them, which has in the past been able to be faked with like retractable blades or other types of techniques and stuff like that. So with that, the CGI allows for much more brutality, I think, in some of the kills in the movie, as well as they do a great job with fake blood, not necessarily looking really fake. So I would say, as far as brutality goes in the film, the kills in this one are definitely a lot gorier than they have been in the past. And like I said, overall, if you're looking at visual effects from the idea or angle of cinematography, how the camera work was done, lighting and stuff like that, then this Scream movie is also probably one of the best ones made. And so yeah, for a visual category, I think they did pretty good. So, overall, final verdict, I give this movie about a 4.2 out of 5. I feel like it was really well put together. Obviously, it works. I do feel like some of the bashing on Scream 4 is a little bit undeserved. So with Wes Craven, like I said, he passed away in 2015. The movie does have, at the very end of the credits, it talks about For Wes. And I feel like this movie was definitely made as kind of a, love offering to him, for the people that have appreciated all of his movies. And it definitely serves up some fan service in that regard as well. But with Scream 4, it was relatively creative. It was definitely shocking in its own right. And there's definitely some elements of it that like I said, I still like. But generally, the film came across pretty good. Like I said, 4.2 out of 5. And yeah, go check it out.